Hello class, this is the lab video introduction for your running water lab. So here I'm going to tell you how it is that you're supposed to do it, which parts you're supposed to do, and I might help you through a couple of the problems that we have in one of the parts. Okay, so in this lab, unfortunately, you're not going to get to do some of what we would have done if we had seen each other in person. There's a really cool model that we work with there. Unfortunately, again, we can't do it, so you're going to have to skip pretty much all part A of the lab manual on running water. But if you're looking at your lab manual, the first page on the running water lab should be page 103. This should be what you're looking at, the water cycle. And if you listen to lecture, that we should have covered that in depth. However, this is a good refresher, so I recommend that you go over it as well as the introduction and this general stream types idea that Ander has outlined for you. Okay, so from the materials, of course, you don't have a stream model kit, okay, so you won't need that. And I don't think that you need a piece of string. However, if you do have one, it might be useful to use it for, I think it's part D of your lab. But if you just have a ruler, you can also get by measuring chunks of the trajectory instead of the whole thing with the string. Either way, you should be okay. Again, the string is a little bit more accurate, but you'll be fine if you just have a ruler. And you'll need a calculator. Your phone will work, or the laptop, whatever, for that matter. So again, go ahead and read through these couple of pages to get a refresher of what concepts we want you to get in order to complete this lab. Okay, so again, you're going to skip all of part A. Part A is not going to be asked on the quiz, so forget about that. And so this picture, which is on page 106, I believe, yep, that's the first picture that you're going to deal with, all right? And then you go onwards to part B. So part B refers to this picture, figure 3, later on in the questions, as well as this figure 4, okay? So that will be the first part that you do. So let me show you how this particular lab is going to look on Blackboard, or how the submission is going to work for Blackboard, and then we'll go ahead and run through the different parts. Alright, so if you're on Blackboard, your courses should all be outlined here. You're going to go to the Physical Geology Lab course shell. And then within there, you're going to go to Topic Module, Sp20. Yours might look a little bit different than mine, but overall it's the same idea. You'll go to that link, to that tab, I should say. And then later you'll click on the Running Water Chapter 13 Topic Module. So once you're there, you'll see two things, or three, I guess, that you should be concerned about. The first one is instructions for completing the running water lab. So here you'll see this video that I am recording right now. And then later on, you will have the link for the quiz submission. Later on, you also have the lecture videos in case you need to brush up on any of the topics that I talk about in there. So they're also there for you, as well as in the lecture shell of our course. But if you go on to the quiz, you have 45 minutes to submit it, so hopefully you will have done the lab prior to opening up the quiz on Blackboard, okay? So do the lab, or the parts of the lab that you need to do on your lab manual first, and then come to do the quiz. Prepare to do them. So this particular quiz has, I think, 30 questions total. It's a little bit longer than the previous ones, so be prepared. Okay. So the first question that you're asked is question 6 of your lab manual, so that would be the corresponding first question to the first question of part B, okay? So that's question 6. And so if you go with me on page 107, after you have figure 4, the first question there is, what type of stream channel is the Boise River along this particular stretch? So I give you 4 different options. Hopefully you click on the right one, so on and so forth. So all of these are in order of the parts that we are covering, and I'll refer back to this as we go. But for part B, we go from question 6 on your lab manual all the way to question 17. So that's what you see in your quiz. Some of them will be multiple choice, like these couple ones, but some of them are short answer, like this one. There's some other ones that are also multiple answer. So in this case, question 10, I guess, of your lab manual, you can click on several answers. Yeah, so you get the idea. That's how it works until you hit question 17. Once you hit question 17 of your lab manual, or question 12 within the Blackboard quiz, you're going to go all the way to question 23 of your lab manual. So that means that we're going to skip part C of your lab manual. So let me take you back to that. Okay, so again, this is part B. You're going to go through all of these questions and answer them. And then once you get to part C, you're going to completely skip it. We're going to skip it. You could do it on your own, but we're going to skip it because we don't cover this topic in lecture. And although it's a really cool topic, it needs a little bit of explanation on one-to-one. Otherwise, it becomes really difficult to understand. So we're just going to skip part C. Okay? So don't answer questions 8, or I guess 19 through 22. So you're going to jump all the way to part D. So in part D, you're going to ask about this figure above, figure 8, as well as other things below. We'll go through part D after we go through part B. So let's go through part B together, at least some parts of it that may be a little confusing. So generally, streams can be categorized as braided, meandering, or straight. So that's figure 2 of your lab manual. That's on page 104. You can review those 3 types of streams. And over their length, typically they have characteristics of all 3 end-member channel types, meaning a river won't be fully meandering all throughout its length, but it might become meandering later on in life. It might have started out as straight or as braided, or the other way around. Okay? So channel type is dependent on a number of factors. Those factors being sediment load, amount, and type, both how big the load is and overall how much of that load is being carried, as well as the stream gradient, so how steep or shallow the land that the stream is running through is. So those 2 things are 2 of the most vital factors in determining the channel type. Okay, so you're going to be asked about this constantly throughout the lab manual. Okay. So again, first question is asking you what type of stream this is, or at least in this stretch, that is in figure 4. Then question 7 asks you what conditions would form this type of stream. So depending on what you said, hopefully you have an idea of how much sediment there is. I think in the questions on Blackboard, I give you not just amount of load, but also load size. So like grain size that it could be carrying, as well as other couple of hints. So think of the specific type of stream that you have, and think of all factors that could influence that stream being what it is at that location in that stretch. Okay? All right, so for question 8, reflect on the conditions that form the stream type. What do you think that this particular stretch of Boise River looks like? Okay, so same thing, just reflect on those things. So in here, they're specifically asking you about in this particular stretch, what are you seeing that could reflect the nature of that stream? Okay, so for example, if you consider that it's meandering, could you see any cut banks and point bars? Or if you think that it's braided, do you see any island bars or just a big sediment load being carried? In either of those cases, you see a floodplain. If you think it's straight, is it confined by topography? Whatever features you see is what you put on question 8. Okay. Question 9. Describe the differences in stream channel morphology from 1992 to 2007. So that would be between these 2 pictures. Do you see any changes in between them? And if so, what is it that you are seeing? And so I think this is a multiple choice question on the quiz that's going to give you possible changes that you see, if you see any. If not, again, you won't see them within the question. So just answer it to the best of your ability here on the lab manual, and then you'll have a few possibilities on the quiz. Okay, question 10. Identify at least one factor that would cause these differences or lack thereof. Okay, so here, for example, if you think that they are very, very different, could it be because there's more water or less water, or could it be because the gradient has changed, so maybe base level has changed, or could it be maybe human controlled, like have we put any sort of water stopping mechanisms that you can think of above or below the stream that is causing those changes, so on and so forth. Okay, so now question 11. Compare figures 3 and 4. So again, that's the first picture on page 106, and then the last two that you just examined on page 107. And then describe the differences in stream channel morphology from 1938 to 2007. So the first figure, figure 3, that is a figure from 1938. So let me refer that to you and show you how that looks. Okay, so figure 3 is this figure, which again, page 106. So when you compare it to figure 4, which are these two pictures, one from 2017 and one from 1992, you are looking at this much of that picture, okay? So it's easy to get a little bit lost and try to think how much of that picture really is being shown to you. So again, this red square that I made in the video, that's as much as you are looking at, okay? Or that's what you should be looking at. All this top left part of the picture, you should kind of discard for now or not pay attention to it now. Later on in the lab, you'll refer back to it, but for now, don't pay attention to that. Just pay attention to this bit and to these two pictures in figure 4. Okay, so now that you know which part of that picture or that figure you should be referring to, it's going to be a little bit easier for you to describe the differences in the stream channel morphology that there has been, the changes in 80 years. So that'll be good. Okay, so later on you move to these questions. So flood control in the Boise River is carried out by a series of 3 dams: the Arrow Rock Dam that was made in 1915, Anderson Ranch Dam in 1950, and the Lucky Peak Dam in 1955. All of these are above that stretch of river that you were shown, okay? So a primary function of these dams is to impound the glut of spring runoff and to store it to be used later in the year in the drier months. So this not only allows farmers to have reliable access to irrigation water, but also protects our urban area from spring floods. Okay, so again, remember when these were made, okay? And then it says, after examining these photos, so figures 3 and 4, do you think that these dams have been effective in flood control? So hopefully in the photos you can see some sort of floodplain, maybe. And if so, you can determine whether or not there was more water or less water before the dams or after the dams. Okay, so that is what that is there for. Okay, question 13. What evidence from these images helped you make your determination in the previous question? That's just examination. I think in the lab, in the quiz, it's a short answer. And then the stream channel shown in figure 4. Okay, so that should be figure 5, okay? Figure 5. Cross it out in your mind. Figure 5. So the Rio Grande near the Gulf of Mexico, so that's actually this figure below, is significantly different than the one from the Boise River stretch that we previously examined. So what type of channel is this? And in general, what conditions would lead to the formation of this channel type? So in this case, it's a similar question to question 6 and 7 of the last page. So I'll let you think of that. The image below shows a portion of the Rio Grande a few miles downstream from the map you used in the previous questions. So figure 5 again, this one. Describe the changes that took place from 1962 and to 2011. So that would be the changes from this picture to this picture. So hopefully you see that the river course was like this, and now it's like this. This whole section has been taken out, basically. So you describe it, and then you answer these 2 questions based on that description. Okay, so part B is relatively straightforward. A few things to clarify there, which is what we just did. Again, you're going to skip through all of part C of your lab manual, and you're going to come down to part D. So I'm going to help you out with the first few questions there.